The first breath of the day comes through the gap under the wooden door. Cool. Carrying the faint iron smell of the metal gate downstairs and something green from the courtyard banyan that nobody remembers planting. I lie still for a moment, letting the sounds assemble themselves. The distant rumble of the number 8 bus down on the main road, a bicycle bell half a lane away. The first ladle clinking against a pot in the neighbor's kitchen. The walls are thin here, old plaster and brick, and they carry life the way a seashell carries the sea. Someone upstairs is already moving a chair across the floor. 3 drags, then a pause. That's Mr. Huang. He always starts his day by moving the chair to the window so he can watch the street wake up. He's been doing that for 32 years. I know because I've counted the seasons through my own window, which faces the same alley. I push off the thin cotton blanket, the one my mother gave me when I first moved into this flat. The blue flowers have faded to ghosts of themselves, but the fabric is softer than anything I've found since. My feet find the slippers by the bed-worn leather. The left one with a slight tear in the heel that I keep meaning to stitch but never do because the tear reminds me of the morning I tripped on the doorstep and spilled an entire pot of congee onto the landing. That was the day Mrs. Chen 3 doors down brought me a bowl of hers steaming and thick with century egg, requiring nothing in return except a listening ear for the latest drama between her son and his wife. She talked for an hour while I ate, and by the time she left, my slipper was still torn and I felt, inexplicably, that the day had given me more than it had taken. The flat is small, 2 rooms and a kitchenette that doubles as a balcony. The washing machine squeezed next to the stove like 2 old relatives who've learned to tolerate each other. But everything has its place. The teacups on the shelf, the tin of oolong tea with the dented lid, the bamboo steamer hanging from a hook, the stack of newspapers I used to line the vegetable drawer. I've lived here for 42 years. And the space has shrunk and expanded with my life, first too big when I was young and alone, then perfectly snug when my husband was still here, then too big again when he passed. Then just right once I learned to fill the quiet with small tasks. I boil water in the electric kettle, the one my daughter bought me last spring festival. It's sleek and silver and feels out of place among the chipped ceramic jars. But it boils fast and doesn't whistle, so I've made peace with it. While the water heats, I open the kitchen window. The alley below is already stirring. That old magpie is on the rooftop across the way, his head cocked as if he's listening to the city's heartbeat. Lao Zhang, the street sweeper, is moving along the gutter with his bamboo broom, a rhythm I could recognize blindfolded. Swish, tap, swish, tap. He's been sweeping this lane since before the new subway line opened, back when the only traffic was bicycles and the occasional tricycle cart piled with cabbages. Morning. Auntie Mei. A young voice floats up from the stairwell. It's Shao Feng, the delivery rider who lives in the converted storage room on the ground floor. I lean over the railing and see his bright yellow jacket, that helmet tucked under his arm, a bag of something warm in his hand. Morning, boy. Did you get any sleep? You came in so late last night, I heard your scooter at 1:30. He grins. Orders kept coming. Someone wanted hot pot ingredients delivered at midnight. Midnight, in this neighborhood. We're all night owls. You young people, I say, but I smile. Don't forget to eat something real, not just the baozi you pick up along the way. I will, Auntie. I'm heading out again. I smelled your kettle. You're making tea. Save me a cup one day, okay? Anytime, Xiaofeng. Anytime. He disappears down the stairs, his footsteps quick and light. And I hear the heavy front door swing open and closed, the click of the latch echoing up all 6 floors. That door's lock has been loose for months. Someone wrote on the notice board that the landlord would fix it, but the notice is yellowed now and nobody has bothered to add a second line. We've all learned to pull it shut with a particular twist. Visitors always struggle, but we don't. Our muscles remember. I make my tea, a generous pinch of oolong from the dented tin. Water just off the boil poured into a glass jar because my favorite teapot cracked last winter and I haven't found a replacement that feels right. The leaves unfurl slowly, releasing a scent like roasted barley and old books. I carry the jar to the window and stand there in my dressing gown, watching the alley come fully awake. Across from me, the balcony of the Deng family already has their red plastic basin out, full of water and a live carp swimming lazy circles. It's Tuesday. And on Tuesdays, Granny Deng always buys a fish from the morning market because her grandson visits for dinner. I can see her now, leaning on the railing, chatting with someone I can't see. Her voice drifts over, fresh, not frozen. You can tell by the eyes. The carp flicks its tail and splashes, and she laughs, a sound like dry leaves rattling. Further down, the lights in the convenience store flick on. Mr. Hao, who runs it with his wife, flips the open sign around. They've had that shop for 15 years. And the sign is a piece of cardboard with the word written in marker, the O worn off in one corner. Before that, the space was a noodle shop run by a couple from Sichuan, whose Dan noodles were so numbing my tongue would buzz for an hour. They moved to Shenzhen when their son got a job there, and for a while the place sat empty. A dark mouth in the row of shuttered shops. Then Mr. Hao put up his sign, and now we buy our eggs and soy sauce and mosquito coils from him. He never asks why you need things at odd hours. He just pushes them across the counter and adds a single hard candy to your change. It's time to go down. I finish my tea, slip off my dressing gown, and pull on my day clothes, a loose blouse with a pattern of tiny white flowers, dark trousers with an elastic waist. The comfortable walking shoes I bought from the wet market shoe stall after my old pair finally gave up. I check my pocket for keys and my small purse. A woven thing from a street vendor that's starting to fray but holds just enough for morning errands. Then I open my door and step into the hallway. The corridor on my floor smells of mothballs and the faint sweetness of incense from the shrine the Lam family keeps by their door. A joss stick still smolders in a tin filled with sand, its tip glowing orange in the dim light. I pause for a second, not to pray, but just to acknowledge the quiet presence of other people's hopes. Then I head for the stairs. The stairwell is the soul of the building. 83 steps from my floor to the ground, 14 landings, each with a window that offers a different slice of the old city. The walls are painted that pale green that every old building seems to have scuffed here and there, with patches of darker green where someone tried to cover a stain and gave up when the color didn't match. The handrail is metal painted brown, worn smooth in the middle from decades of palms sliding down. As I descend, I can hear the building breathing, a radio playing Cantonese opera from the second floor. The clatter of mahjong tiles being shuffled somewhere below, a baby crying and then stopping as if a bottle has been found. On the 5th floor landing, I meet Mrs. Chen. She's standing in her doorway, her white hair pinned up with a clip shaped like a butterfly, holding a plastic bowl covered with a plate. "Auntie Mei, I was just coming up here. I made too much turnip cake last night. It's best eaten warm." She thrusts the bowl into my hands before I can protest. The bowl is warm through the plate, the steam curling up and smelling of dried shrimp and white pepper. "Mrs. Chen, you're always too generous. Did you not sleep worrying about me again?" I tease gently. "Nonsense. It's just that my son's wife, she prefers those bread things from the new bakery on North Street. She says turnip cake is too heavy for breakfast, too heavy. In my day, a heavy breakfast meant you could work until noon without feeling faint. But what do I know?" She waves a hand dismissively, but I see the slight pucker between her brows. "I love heavy breakfasts," I say. "I'll eat it with my tea and think of you." "Better think of the old days," she says, and then, switching tone, "Did you hear? The new couple on the 4th floor, the ones who moved in last month, they've put up a notice asking people to be quiet after 10 o'clock. a notice on our building's board. As if we're all children who need to be told to shush. I saw it and I laughed. I told my sister. I said, "They don't know that the building is the noise. The noise is what keeps the roof up." I laugh, maybe they'll learn. Give them a year. They'll be the ones staying up late with their own worries. Perhaps. Mrs. Chen pats my arm. Anyway, eat the cake. I'm off to the temple. I need to light incense for my husband's memory. He would have been 80 today, you know. 80. I remember his birthday because he always insisted on making longevity noodles himself. And he'd put so much pepper in the broth I'd cough all through dinner. I miss that cough. Her eyes go distant for a moment, then she blinks and her face clears like a wind moving across a pond. Go on, don't let your breakfast get cold. She turns and starts down the stairs herself, her slippers flapping, and I continue after her, the bowl of turnip cake warm in my hands. Down past the 4th floor, where the new notice is indeed pinned up bright white sheet with neat printed characters. A stark contrast to the hand-scrawled notes and faded newspapers that cover the rest of the board. There's even an illustration of a sleeping figure with a finger to its lips. I smile, not unkindly. Because I remember when I was new here, the first night I couldn't sleep because of the water pipes banging and the couple next door arguing. I almost wrote my own notice then. But instead I bought earplugs, and after a month I stopped needing them. The building absorbed me, the way it absorbs everyone given enough time, at the ground floor. The heavy front door with its tricky latch waits. I push it open with the heel of my hand and step outside into the alley. The air changes immediately, warmer, dustier. Layered with cooking oil and jasmine, and something that might be motor exhaust from the main road a few blocks away. Over the years, the smells have settled into a hierarchy in my mind. First, the yeasty scent from the bakery 2 lanes over. Second, the sharp tang of vinegar from the dumpling house. Third, the green bite of the alley's potted plants. Mostly basil and chili peppers grown in red clay pots by whichever granny is currently having a gardening phase. Fourth, the occasional whiff of uncollected garbage, which we all complain about until someone, usually Lao Zhang the sweeper, takes it upon himself to nag the sanitation department. I turn left toward the morning market. The alley is narrow, just wide enough for a car if the car folds in its mirrors and holds its breath. It's lined on both sides with low buildings, some 2 stories, some 3. All with shops on the ground floor and residences above. The barber shop is the first door, its red striped pole motionless because the motor burned out in 9, but Mr. Guo still sits outside on a wooden stool every morning, sipping soybean milk and reading the sports pages. He nods at me without looking up. Morning, Auntie Mei. The noodles are fresh today. I heard. Morning, Mr. Guo. Any news from the world, I ask, because he always has an opinion about football or politics. Same old, same old. The world turns, we just oil our scissors. He flaps the newspaper. Go on. The good vegetables go early. I know this already, but I appreciate the reminder. The morning market is a 10-minute walk, but it feels longer because I stopped so many times. At the shop run by the Zhou brothers, who sell hardware and household goods, I pause to check their outdoor display of brooms, mops, plastic buckets, and rolls of wire mesh. The younger Zhou brother, thin and bespectacled, is arranging a new shipment of clothespins, bright green ones this time, replacing the sun-bleached yellow ones. I make a mental note. My clothespin collection is dwindling. The old ones snapping one by one like twigs. Maybe next week. Next is the tiny temple, no bigger than a closet, tucked between a tailor and a rice shop. A statue of the earth god sits inside behind the glass pane, his kind face smudged with incense ash, a small pile of oranges at his feet. Someone has left a fresh cup of tea in front of him. And the steam is still rising. I bow my head briefly, not because I'm devout, but because it feels right to acknowledge the quiet gods of corners and alleys. The incense smoke curls into the morning, mixing with the cooking oil from the fried dough stick vendor up ahead. Ah, the fried dough stick vendor, Auntie Liu. Her stall is a metal cart parked at the junction of this alley and the next, right beneath the big chinnaberry tree that drops yellow berries in autumn. She's been there for 25 years. And her youtiao are the gold standard against which all other youtiao are measured, crispy on the outside, airy and chewy within, with the exact right amount of salt. The queue is already 4 people deep, and I join at the end, the bowl of turnip cake now cool enough to hold under one arm. Ahead of me in line is the security guard from the residential compound down the block, Uncle Wu. He's in his uniform, a dark blue suit with epaulets, his cap slightly askew as always. He turns when he hears my footsteps. Auntie Mei, how's the door latch on your building? My sister lives in that building. She says it still sticks. It sticks less if you kick it softly, I say. A gentle kick, not a hard one. Your sister always kicks too hard. Uncle Wu laughs. I'll tell her, soft kick. She's got a temper, my sister. She treats every door like it's insulted her ancestors. The line shuffles forward. I can see Auntie Liu working, her arms dusted with flour. Her face setting concentration as she twists strips of dough and drops them into the sizzling oil. The oil pops and hisses, sending up a fragrance that makes my stomach tighten with a hunger I hadn't noticed until now. She works with a partner today. Her nephew, I think. A young man with a shy face who handles the money and bags the youtiao in brown paper. They have a rhythm. She twists, he bags. She salts, he hands over change. The cart is a small kingdom of efficiency. When it's my turn, Auntie Liu looks up and her face breaks into a smile. Auntie Mei, you're late this morning. I was starting to worry. Mrs. Chen brought me turnip cake, I explain. I got delayed on the stairs. That woman, she feeds the whole neighborhood. I don't know where she finds the energy. The usual? The usual. 2 sticks, not too dark. She selects 2 from the rack, golden brown, glistening, and folds them into paper so only the top halves peek out. On the house today, she says, pushing them toward me. I'm testing a new batch of flour. Tell me if it's different. I'll pay you with honesty, I say, and I mean it. Honesty is more expensive than a yuan, she counters, but she's already turned to the next customer. I walk away from the stall eating 1 youtiao in small bites, savoring the crunch and the way the salt crystals dissolve on my tongue. The new flour is good, maybe a little lighter than before. But I'll need to eat the second one to be sure. I wander toward the vegetable alley, where the awnings are a patchwork of blue and white stripes, and the ground is always damp from the fish seller's splash. Here, the noise rises, women haggling over bok choy, a man shouting the price of pork bones, the scrape of a cleaver against a wooden block as the butcher splits ribs. I love this chaos. It's the sound of the old city's pulse. The same rhythm my grandmother heard when she brought me here as a child. The faces are different now, more phones. More people in business clothes rushing through on their way to the subway, but the bones are the same. The old lady who sells tofu has a new scale, digital instead of the balance beam. But she still weighs the tofu by eye and only uses the scale to confirm what she already knows. I stop at the vegetable stall run by a woman my age named Xiao Zhen. Her stall is the one with the neatest piles. Choy sum tied in tight bunches, ginger knobs like little gnarled hands, spring onions with the roots still chalky with soil. Xiao Zhen is on a stool, shelling fava beans into a metal bowl. Each pod makes a small popping sound as she splits it with her thumb. Auntie Mei, she says without looking up, the spinach is especially sweet today. Rain last night. I'll take a bunch, I say, and 2 eggs. The eggs are in the back. Grab them yourself. I've got bean juice on my hands. I step around the front display and pick 2 eggs from the flat cardboard tray, choosing the ones with the most speckles. I hand her the coins, and she pushes them into a red plastic box without counting. Trust like that is the real currency here, older than any banknote. As I'm about to leave, she says, "Wait." She leans over and picks up a small bunch of cilantro from the edge of the table. "Take this, it's extra. I bought too much and it'll wilt by noon." I tuck the cilantro into my bag next to the spinach, the clean green smell mixing with the bakery scent already clinging to my clothes. "Next time, I'll bring you some of my pickled radish." "I'm holding you to that," she says, and returns to her beans. The morning stretches on like this, small exchanges, small acquisitions. From the tofu seller, a block of soft tofu wrapped in a damp cloth. From the rice shop, a half gin of red rice, the grains like tiny polished stones. From the spice stall, a paper cone of Sichuan peppercorns that numbs my fingertips even through the paper. Each stop adds a layer to my bag and a warmth to my chest, the simple satisfaction of provisioning a day. I stop for a second outside a shop that used to be a radio repair place. It's closed now, the metal shutter pulled down and painted with graffiti that someone half-heartedly tried to scrub off. Through a gap at the bottom of the shutter, I can see a pair of slippers someone abandoned there, the kind with a toe separator and a faded floral print. I remember when the radio repair shop was open, how the owner, a man with glasses thick as bottle bottoms, would sit all day with his soldering iron. Surrounded by the soft hiss of static and the smell of melted tin, he fixed my old transistor radio 3 times before it finally died. The 3rd time he told me, "Auntie Mei, this radio loves you too much to leave, but love isn't enough to fix a broken capacitor. I keep that radio in a drawer now, too sentimental to throw away. I don't know what happened to him." One day the shutter was pulled down, and it never came back up. And after a few months, people stopped asking because there was a new phone repair shop on the main road that also sold screen protectors and mobile data plans. The world shifts under our feet, one shuttered shop at a time. I don't say any of this out loud. I just note the slippers and walk on. When I get back to my alley, the sun is fully up, slicing between the buildings in long golden wedges. The magpie from earlier is gone. In his place, a grandmother is sitting on the low stone wall near the gate, holding a baby on her lap and pointing at the leaves of the chinaberry tree. "Look, that's a leaf. It's green. Green," she says in that sing-song voice adults use for infants. The baby stares at the leaf with the solemn intensity of someone reading a philosophical treatise. I nod at them both and push through the stubborn front door with my shoulder, remembering to give a soft kick at the bottom, and it swings open with a creak that sounds like satisfaction. Back up the stairs. The building has settled into its mid-morning quiet. The mahjong game has paused. The opera radio has been turned down. The baby on the 2nd floor is taking a nap. I pass the Lam family's shrine again, the incense now burned down to a stub, the sand cup cooling. The air on the stairs smells of cooked rice and laundry detergents. Someone lower down is doing their wash, the hum of a machine vibrating through the floor. On the 3rd floor landing, I find the security guard's sister, Auntie Zhao, trying to open the door to the shared balcony where we hang clothes. She's wrestling with the handle, her face red. "This thing," she mutters when she sees me. "Every time it's like it has a personal grudge." "You're using too much force again," I say, setting down my shopping bag. "Here, let me." I grasp the handle, give it a gentle downward push while lifting slightly, and the door opens with a soft click. "See? It wants to be treated like a friend, not an enemy." Auntie Zhao shakes her head. "You and your doors, Auntie Mei. You should be a door whisperer." "I just listen to what they're trying to tell me," I say. "And it's only half a joke. Every hinge, Every latch in this building has a story, a worn spot that tells you where it's been touched most. The door to the balcony is old. Its metal frame slightly warped from years of rain and sun, so it needs a lift. The door to my own flat needs a push at the top right corner because the frame settled after the earthquake in '99. Just a tremor, no damage. But the building shifted by a millimeter and never moved back. I know these things the way I know the shape of my own hand. I pick up my bag and climb the remaining flights to my floor. Inside my flat, the light has moved across the room, now resting on the armchair where I read in the afternoons. I put away the vegetables, spinach in the fridge, ginger on the counter, eggs in the wire basket, the cilantro in a jar of water like a bouquet. The tofu I place in a bowl of fresh water, to be changed at lunch. Then I sit down finally and finish my cold turnip cake. It's still delicious. The texture dense and savory, flecks of lapchong and mushrooms scattered through. I eat it slowly, looking out the window at the alley below, where life has shifted into its second gear. The morning rush is over. Now it's the time for errands and visits, for people standing in the shade to chat, for a stray cat to stretch its spine across the sun-warmed pavement. The cat, a skinny ginger with a torn ear, lives behind the waste bins, but is fed by at least 3 different families. I've named him Little Brother. Though he doesn't answer to anything except the shake of a food packet, he's down there now watching a pigeon with the detached interest of a retired assassin. Mid-morning is also when I attend to the small maintenance tasks that keep the flat from crumbling into entropy. Today's task, the door latch on my own kitchen cabinet, the one that holds my dried mushrooms and sauces. The latch has been slipping for weeks, so when I close it, the door swings back open with a mournful groan. I've been propping it shut with a wooden spoon, but that's not a solution, it's a negotiation. So I retrieve my small toolbox from the shelf above the washing machine, a dented blue tin box that once held Danish butter cookies, now filled with screws, a screwdriver with a yellow handle, a pair of pliers, a roll of electrical tape, and a small bottle of sewing machine oil. The box itself is a relic. The cookies are long gone, eaten over the course of many afternoons with tea. But the tin has served for 20 years as my dependable fix-it kit. I carry the box to the kitchen, pull up the wooden stool, and open the troublesome cabinet door. The latch is a simple metal hook and eye, the kind you can buy for pennies at the Joe Brothers shop. The problem is clear. The hook has bent slightly outward over time, so it no longer catches the eye securely. Using the pliers, I carefully bend it back into shape, testing the angle several times until it aligns perfectly. The metal is cool and faintly rusty under my fingers, the surface rough with tiny pits. I clean the hook with a rag dabbed in a bit of oil, working the oil into the hinge so it moves smoothly. And then screw the eye plate a quarter turn tighter because it had loosened. When I close the door, the hook slides into the eye with a satisfying click, and the door stays shut. I open it and close it 3 more times just to enjoy the sound. A small repair, but it leaves me feeling competent and calm, as if I've reaffirmed my place in the world by mending one small corner of it. This same contentment used to fill me when I'd watch my husband fix things around the flat, the leaky faucet, the wobbly table leg, the frayed lamp cord. He had large, careful hands, and he'd work with his tongue between his teeth, a habit our daughter inherited. I still use his pliers, his screwdriver. And every time I pick them up, I feel a faint echo of his presence, like the warmth left on a chair after someone has stood up. I don't talk to him, not in words. But I think his name when I tighten a screw, Ah Yong. And I think he'd be pleased that the cabinet latch finally got fixed. I clean the oil off my hands with a rag and put the toolbox back in its place. Then I make another cup of tea using the same leaves from before, just adding fresh hot water. The second steep is milder, almost sweet, and it's my favorite part of any tea session. I carry it to the armchair and sit down, letting my body sink into the familiar dip in the cushion. Across the room, the sunlight has reached the bamboo steamer hanging on the wall, illuminating its weave in a honey-colored glow. A light breeze comes through the kitchen window, carrying the faint sound of someone practicing a flute a few buildings away, scales up and down, tentative and then more confident. The flutist is probably the teenage boy who lives above the tailor. I've seen him sitting on his balcony with the instrument case open, his face serious. He's been practicing for about 2 years, and I can chart his progress by the melodies that drift over the alley. At first, it was just notes, raw and wobbly. Now, there are phrases, attempts at music, and sometimes, just as I'm falling asleep, I hear a perfect run that makes me think, he's found it. Even if just for a moment. My daughter calls around 10:30. My phone is an old flip phone, nothing smart about it, but it rings loudly and the screen is big enough for my eyes. Her name lights up, little you. Though she's 38 now and hasn't been little for a long time, I open it. Ma, did you eat breakfast? Always her first question. Mrs. Chen gave me turnip cake and I bought youtiao from Auntie Liu. I'm very full. You ate fried dough? Ma, the oil? It's not good for your cholesterol. I've been eating that oil for 60 years. My heart is fine. It's the worrying that gives people problems, not the oil. She sighs. A sound I can picture alongside the roll of her eyes. Okay, I'm just checking. I'll come by this weekend. Do you need anything? I can bring the big box of tissues from the supermarket. I need you to bring yourself, and maybe some of that lotion you got me last time. My hands are dry from all the washing. I'll bring it. And Dad's old watch, I found it in a box at my place. Do you want it? My breath catches just a little. Young's watch. A Seiko with a worn leather strap that he wore every day until the day he didn't. Yes, bring it. I'll keep it in the drawer with his glasses. There's a pause. And then she says more softly, How are you, Ma? Really? I fixed the cabinet latch, I say, because that's the truest answer I can give, and I bought cilantro. It's a good day. She understands because she grew up in this building, learned to speak its language of small tasks and small kindnesses. That's good, Ma. Save some cilantro for the soup I'll make on Saturday. I'll put it in a jar of water so it stays fresh. After we hang up, I sit for a while without moving. The tea cools in my hand. I think about the watch, its smooth crystal face, the tiny scratch at the edge that happened when he was fixing the bicycle and caught it on the chain. I think about how time passes differently in the old city, not in straight lines but in loops, the same seasons, the same faces, the same sounds, shifting just enough to let you know you're still moving forward. Just before noon, I rouse myself to prepare lunch. Lunch is a simple affair. Leftover rice from the previous day, reheated with a little water in the wok until it's fluffy again, then topped with the soft tofu I bought, a drizzle of soy sauce, a sprinkle of sesame oil, and the chopped cilantro on top. I eat it standing at the kitchen counter, watching the alley go about its midday business. Lao Zhang, the sweeper, has returned to his post under the chennaberry tree, sitting on an upturned crate. Eating his own lunch from a metal tiffin. I can't see what he's eating, but he eats with the slow, methodical movements of a man who has learned to stretch a meal break. 2 schoolchildren run past him, chasing a plastic ball that bounces erratically on the uneven stones. Their laughter climbs up and through my open window like a kite. After lunch, I wash the dishes by hand in the small sink, using a bar of laundry soap sliced thin with a knife because I prefer it to the liquid dish soap that smells like chemicals. The act of washing, the warm water, the brush with its worn bristles, the clink of porcelain, is its own meditation. I dry each plate and bowl with a cloth, put everything back in its place, and then wipe down the counter. Order restored. The kitchen feels peaceful, ready for whatever the afternoon might bring. The afternoon is the long hour, The old city slows down between 2 and 4, as if everyone collectively agrees to nap or stay indoors. The sun becomes heavy, the shadows deepen, and the alley grows quiet except for the hum of air conditioners. This is when I usually sit in the armchair with a book, or doze lightly with the radio on low. Today, I choose the radio, a small portable one that my daughter gave me years ago. A rare concession to modernity because it can pick up more stations. I tune it to the classical music station, nothing too demanding, just a piano piece that ripples like water. I close my eyes. In the half-sleep, the sounds of the building blend with the music. The distant drum of a washing machine, a dog barking somewhere far, the creak of the building's old bones settling in the heat. And under it all, the faint rhythm of the city's metabolism, the constant hum that you only notice when you try to listen. I drift for a while, not fully asleep, not fully awake. A state where time becomes soft and memories rise unbidden. I remember the day we moved into this building. Young and I, we were so young. Our furniture a mismatched collection of hand-me-downs and street finds. That first night, we slept on a mattress on the floor. And I woke up at 3 in the morning to the sound of someone playing an erhu in the courtyard below. It was the most achingly beautiful thing I'd ever heard. I pushed open the window and saw an old man sitting on a stool, his eyes closed, his hands moving the bow with the patience of a lifetime. He played every night for a year, and then he stopped. I never learned his name or what happened to him, but sometimes in the quiet of a long afternoon, I still hear those notes in my memory. As if the building itself absorbed them and releases them back when the conditions are just right. I'm pulled from my drift by a knock at the door. 2 sharp raps, then a third, lighter, the code. It's Xiao Feng, the delivery rider. I'm sure of it. I rise, my joints stiff from the chair, and open the door. And there he is, still in his yellow jacket, but this time holding a small cardboard box. Auntie Mei, a package for you. They left it downstairs with a guard, and I said I'd bring it up. It's from your daughter, I think. The return address says you. I take the box. It's light. Thank you, Xiao Feng. You didn't have to climb all the way up. I was coming up anyway. My mom sent me some pickled vegetables from home. I'm dropping them off at my place. He shifts his weight. Can I ask you something, Auntie Mei? Of course. You've lived here a long time, right? Do you think this place will ever change too much? My mom worries that one day they'll tear these buildings down and build a high-rise. She says then we won't have a place to come back to. I consider this. The question hangs in the hallway air like the incense smoke. Things change, Xiao Feng, they always do. But this neighborhood, it's stubborn. It's been here through wars and floods and economic miracles. I think it'll be here after I'm gone, in some form. Maybe the alley won't look the same. But the people will still buy vegetables and fix their own doors and give each other turnip cake. You can't tear that down with a bulldozer. He nods, though he doesn't look entirely convinced. I hope so. I like it here. I like knowing everyone. Then you're already part of the stubbornness, I say. Now, go eat your mother's pickles and rest a bit. You work too hard. He grins that boyish grin and heads down the stairs 2 at a time. I watch until his yellow back disappears, then close my door. The box from my daughter contains the watch, wrapped in a piece of soft cloth, and a small packet of the hand lotion she promised. I cradle the watch in my palm. It's not ticking. The battery must be dead, but the weight of it is as I remember. The leather still holding a faint trace of Ayong's cologne. Or maybe I'm imagining that. I press it to my cheek for just a second, then place it carefully in the dresser drawer next to his old glasses, a silver pen, and a photograph of the 3 of us when little Yu was 5, taken at a park that no longer exists. The drawer is a museum of a single life, and I tend it with care. I apply some lotion to my hands, the scent mild and clean, and then I decide to take a walk before the evening sets in. The afternoon heat is mellowing, the light turning golden again. I put on my shoes, grab my keys, and descend the stairs once more. Outside, the alley is waking up for its second shift. The school children are back, their uniforms dusty from the playground, buying ice pops from the small fridge at Mr. Howe's convenience store. Mr. Howe is laughing at something one of them says, his bald head gleaming under the store's fluorescent light. The stray cat, little brother, has found a patch of sun on the barber shop's doorstep and is washing his face with the solemnity of a priest preparing for a ritual. Mr. Guo is still outside, but now he's with a customer. Old man Kwok, whose few remaining white hairs are being trimmed with the precision of bonsai. They're discussing the price of pork, a topic that never seems to exhaust itself. I walk past them toward the small public garden that sits at the end of the lane where the alley widens into a sort of plaza. The garden is really just a patch of dirt with a few benches. A single pomelo tree and a low wall where people sit and watch the world pass. In the evenings, it becomes a gathering spot for card players and dog walkers and young couples who whisper on the bench farthest from the light. Now in the late afternoon, it's occupied by an old man flying a kite. The kite is a simple diamond, red paper on a bamboo frame, and he's standing with his head tilted back, letting out string in tiny increments. The kite dips and rises, a small red heart against the pale blue sky. I sit on the low wall and watch him for a while. He doesn't notice me. His whole world is that string and the tug of the wind. A little later, Auntie Liu, the fried dough vendor, passes through, her cart empty now, heading home. She sees me and stops. Finished for the day? Sold out by 2 o'clock, she says, wiping her forehead. The nephew is washing the cart. I'm going to soak my feet. You earned it, I say. The youtiao was excellent today. The new flour is good. You really think so? I thought maybe it was a little too light. I like them with more chew. A little more chew would be even better, I concede. But it's still the best youtiao in the district. She laughs. You're a good customer, Auntie Mei. I'll work on the chew. She waves and walks on. Her shoulders slightly stooped from a day of bending over hot oil. The sun inches lower, and the shadow of the pomelo tree stretches across the dirt. The kite man reels in his strings slowly, the red diamond descending like a leaf, and catches it in his hand. He folds it carefully and tucks it under his arm, then nods at me as he passes. Good wind today, he says. Very steady, I reply. Evening is when the old city puts on its warmest face. The shops start to light up, strings of bulbs hung across doorways. The neon of the convenience store buzzing to life. The smells change too, not the yeasty morning scents, but the rich, savory aromas of dinner cooking, garlic hitting hot oil, broth simmering with star anise, the smoky char of grilled meat from a cart that sets up at the plaza entrance. I walk slowly, watching the familiar choreography. The man who sells roasted chestnuts fires up his charcoal. The woman who runs the fruit stall rearranges her mangoes into a pyramid. The security guard Uncle Wu takes his position at the gate of his compound, standing with his arms behind his back like a sentinel from a gentler war. I stop at a small stall I haven't visited in a while, run by a couple who make fresh rice noodle rolls, Chung Fun. They have a steamer that's pure theater. A sheet of muslin stretched over a round frame, a ladle full of rice batter poured on, then a scatter of dried shrimp, then the lid closed and a burst of steam that rises like a ghost. Seconds later, the noodle is lifted with a scraper, folded into a neat rectangle, and placed on the plate with a drizzle of sweet soy and a spoonful of hoisin. I order one plate and eat it standing at the counter, the noodle silky and hot, the shrimp adding pops of saltiness, its comfort in a bite. And I savor it while watching the steam rise and vanish into the evening air. Dusk settles like a blanket. The streetlights flicker on orange pools in the growing dark. I make my way back toward my alley, but I take the long route. looping past the old cinema that closed 20 years ago and is now a storage facility for a furniture shop. The marquee is still there, though the letters missing, just a blank whiteboard that catches the light of the street lamp and glows faintly. I used to go to that cinema with Ah Young every Friday night. We saw so many films there, the kind where the hero always wins and the lovers always reunite. The last film we saw was a comedy. I can't remember the name, but I remember Ah Young laughing so hard he snorted, and I was so embarrassed that I tried to shush him. But then I started laughing too, and we were both snorting in the dark. Two middle-aged people acting like children. That was a good night. I turn into the alley and see that someone has lit the small lantern by the Earth God shrine. The light inside is a tea candle. Its flame steady behind the glass, casting a tiny halo on the god's face. Someone has also left a new cup of tea and a few more oranges. I don't know who does these things. Maybe many someones. The alley tends its own gods without fanfare. Back at the building, I give the front door its soft kick and the latch releases. The stairwell feels different at night, quieter. The footsteps more echoey. I can hear someone's television drifting down from the second floor, a game show by the sound of the buzzer, and above that, the faint murmur of a conversation between two women, probably Mrs. Chen and her sister, who often talks to her on the phone at this hour. I climb slowly, my legs tired from the day's walking. And at each landing I pause to look out the window. The lights of the alley are like scattered embers, and beyond them, the taller buildings of the new city glow white and blue. A different kind of light entirely. I prefer the orange. Inside my flat, I turn on the small lamp by the armchair and the fluorescent light in the kitchen. Evening is the time for small tasks. Watering the potted basil on the kitchen windowsill, writing down what I need to buy tomorrow in a little notebook, listening to the news on the radio. Today the news is the usual: politics, weather, a sports victory. But I only half listen. I'm thinking about the watch in the drawer, about the cabinet latch, about the turnip cake, about Xiao Feng's question, about the way this day has folded and unfolded like a piece of fabric. I prepare a light dinner. The spinach I bought, wilted in a pan with a little oil and garlic, served over the remaining red rice with a fried egg on top, the yolk still runny. I eat at my small table. The window open to the night air. The alley below is softer now, the children gone inside, the chestnut seller's fire reduced to embers. A bicycle passes, its light a wobbling cone. The stray cat. Little brother meows once, a question, and somewhere a dog answers. Then quiet again, except for the sounds of dinner's ending and dishes being washed across the building. After dinner, I wash up, putting the kitchen back into its nighttime order. The repaired latch holds the cabinet door firmly. I pat it once, a little gesture of thanks, and then I settle into the armchair with a book. This is the hour of reading between 9 and 10, when the world feels suspended. The book is an old one, a collection of folk tales my daughter gave me as a girl. The page is yellow and the spine cracked so that the book falls open to my favorite story, the one about the rabbit in the moon. I read it again, the familiar words a lullaby. Around 10. The television show from downstairs ends and I hear the signature theme music that's been the same for 20 years. Then footsteps on the stairs, Mr. Huang going up to his flat after his evening walk, his breathing a little heavy. Mrs. Chen's phone call ends. The building settles, floor by floor, person by person, like a great ship finding its balance on calm water. I brush my teeth at the kitchen sink, splashing water on my face, and then I change into my sleeping clothes before bed. I go to the window one last time. The alley is almost dark now, just the light from the convenience store spilling a blue-white rectangle onto the stones. The Earth God lantern still glows. A single steadfast point. The magpie is long gone. The air cool and clean. I think about tomorrow. The market again. The greetings. The small repairs. Maybe I'll replace the clothespins. Maybe I'll oil the hinge on the building's front door if I can find the right oil and the courage to meddle. Maybe Xiaozhen will have more fava beans. Maybe nothing will happen. That would be fine too. The days string together like beads on a thread, each one small and smooth and essential. I close the window but leave a crack for air. I switch off the lamp. And the room falls into the deep blue dark, broken only by the pale light from the hallway that seeps under the door. I lie down, pull the thin blanket up, and feel the building around me breathe. One long, slow exhalation as the old city quietens. The lights dim, the street folds itself into sleep.